Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name is Mr. Saburi, Apex Artist from Media, and today I'm gonna go over creating another useful tool with Python. So I call this one quick Wrangle. What it has some buttons here that will create Wrangle nodes. So I had this Wrangle nodes that I use very frequently in my workflow. So I decided to have this guy and with the buttons and say, okay, I want this now. I want this now, and you can basically write whatever you want. All right, so let's see how this works. So I have this particle system here, and I'm gonna add the V from P first. So what it does is actually getting velocity field from position multiplied by value. So I'm just gonna uh, give it more value, and you see that it gives us velocity, and yeah, it's working. Now I'm gonna hit add ID. So what I like to do is to add ID beforehand the part of the system. So then by an add node, I can create these beautiful lines based on the particle path. All right, so next we have this add V that basically give us the velocity based on direction and value. I know that we have this point velocity attribute that does the same, but I wanted to have it in Wrangle so I can multiply it by value or clamp or fit it. And then we have this add PScale, but first we have to add an attribute for the PScale ramp. So here I'm just gonna say p.y. So then hit add PScale. Now what it does is giving us PScale based on a ramp and multiplied by scale. So here the scale is 0, so I'm just gonna add it. Now you can change the ramp, and PScale is controlled by particles position in y-axis. So that's it. Now let's jump in and create actually all of this. All right, first thing first, I'm just gonna add a subnet, right click and say create new digital asset. So now I'm gonna choose a name for it. So I'm just gonna say quick Wrangle. So that's it for now. I'm just gonna hit create. All right, so first thing, I'm just gonna make sure that we have 0 input and 0 output since we don't really need. And I'm just gonna choose a name for it here. And yeah, so let's jump into the parameter section. So we want to create our buttons first. I'm gonna go first with add ID. So stars add ID. Hit apply. Gonna add it here. And now it doesn't do anything since we don't have any scripts here. So choose Python module. And here we're gonna create some functions that will be executed when we hit this button. So I'm just gonna call my function create ID. All right, if you've seen my previous tutorial, you already know how to create a node in Python, but if you haven't, don't worry, I'm just gonna go over it again. So I'm just gonna call my node ID node. We're gonna say show.pwd, which gives us this node, and then say parent, which gives us this quick Wrangle node or Geo1 node or any geometry node that you're in. And then we're gonna say create node. Now here, I'm gonna pass in two strings. One is the type of the node. So actually, what node do we want to create? So I'm just gonna say attrib Wrangle, which is the name of attribute Wrangle. How we can get these names? We can just type in attribute Wrangle, and you see here is the name. And then I want to write in what do I want to call it. So let's say add ID. And that's it. With just that, we're going to create our attribute Wrangle node. But not yet. You see, even if I hit apply, it's not going to happen because we haven't actually used any callback script here. So we have to say hou.pwd, which gives us this node, and then get the Houdini module, which is hm, and then we have to write in our function name. So this guy, I'm just gonna copy paste it, and then hit apply, and now you can see when I hit it, here it is. This is our ID node. All right, so now we have to pass in some codes to be here when we generate this code. For doing this, I'm gonna hover over here. We're gonna see that the parameter name is snippet. Now I'm gonna use this parameter name to actually change this value. This is a string value, so I can change it. I'm just gonna delete it and get back to our script. Now, if I add anything here, I'm gonna get it whenever I click on this, since I have passed it here. All right. So let's say id node dot parm. Now I have to pass in that snippet. Now I'm gonna set it to here. You're gonna say what kind of Vex code you want to put in. So I'm just gonna say id equals hitting now. Don't forget to put this guy here because it's gonna be needed in Vex. Now accept and just gonna click on id. Now you can see that we have the node and it has came with our Vex code. All right, next thing I'm gonna show you how you can create the node with the Vex code and with the spare parameters, so we don't have to click this every time that we create our node. So let me clean this. We're gonna say type property. Now in parameters tab, I'm just gonna add another button, and I'm just gonna call it add with from P E. And I'm just gonna go over to a script. So here I'm just gonna write another function that will give us an attribute Wrangle node that will say velocity is equal to position, and then create a spare parameter that will multiply to that value. So here I'm just gonna say and create v from P. I'm just naming it like so. And then I'm just gonna say, first thing first, we have to create the Wrangle node. So I'm gonna say vp node is equal to, show you that PID, sorry for lazy naming. And then I'm just gonna say parent create node. I could have just copy pasted. So we're just gonna do here, and here I'm just gonna say add v from P, so the name is right. And then here you see that we have to do the same. We have to change the snippet parameter, and so I'm just gonna copy this line, but make sure that you change this node name. And then here I'm just gonna say v is equal to E. Now I want to actually multiply it by a value, so I'm just gonna say multiply float channel. I'm just gonna call this for example value. You can call it whatever you want, but be careful when you are into double quotations and you use another double quotation, it's gonna make this guy white. That's not gonna work, so you have to use a single quotation here. Then here, if I just hit apply this, check this actually. So we have the button, but it's not gonna work because we haven't applied the callback. So I'm just gonna copy this callback from here as well, and let's make sure to change this. All right, so now I'm just gonna see if it's work. Yeah, we have this. Oh, I forgot to add the, so I'm just gonna get back and here. Add it now. Yeah, it's working. We have the attribute Wrangle, but you see we don't have any value float channel. So we have to click this guy and create it, but we want to skip this part. So I'm gonna get back to our properties, and here we're gonna create a value channel that will be executed whenever we hit this button. All right, so for adding a parameter, you have to do these steps. First, you have to create a group. Then you have to create a value, which is basically that flow channel. Then you have to add the value to the group, and then add the group to node. So these are the steps. I'm just gonna put them down so we have it. And here I'm just gonna say G, which is the group, equals to harm template group. Be careful about the upper cases here and parentheses. And then we have to define the value. So I'm just gonna call this value equals to HOU dot load harm template. All right, so now we have to do the inputs for this function. If you search it, you will see that we have to assign the name, label, number of components, and default value. So these are the important ones. So I'm just gonna do them now. First thing first, I'm just gonna say the name is actually value. So I name this value because we have set value here. So in our attribute Wrangle node, whenever we change this parameter, this VEX code will read from it. So then I'm gonna call this velocity value, and then we have number of components. So since it's just one value, one float value, I'm just gonna say 1, and then the default value, which has to be set like this. So I'm just gonna show you how. We're gonna say default value is equal to 0, for example, or maybe 1, like this. Then we have to add this value that we have created to our group. So I'm just gonna say g dot append value. Then we have to add this group which contains this value to our node. So I'm gonna say vp node dot set harm template group, and the group name is G. All right, so I'm just gonna delete this extra stuff, hit apply, and see if we get any errors. All right, so we didn't get any errors. That's lucky. Now we have this velocity value. You see, I can change it, and the name is actually value, which is being read right here. All right, so I think we can stop here for part 1. In part 2, I'm going to show you how you can create 3 components values, and also how to create this input attribute area so your VEX code can read from, and also how to create ramps. All right, so I'm going to see you in part 2.